So, Ray, let's talk a little bit with you about your impressive and long career. I was just asking you, you're from Wales, which was surprising to me. Tell me a little
It's
bit.
surprising to me, too. Yeah, no, I grew up in Cardiff, Wales, and did my music studies there. I did a music degree from the University of Wales, and went on to Paris to postgrad work, and then the family emigrated to Canada.
Right.
So that's when I first came to these shores, as it were.
And when you began, you were, you said, a serious composer.
Yeah, turning out serious works, but particularly when you're starting out, you can't make a living doing that. So I made my living by orchestrating and arranging. I did that for a while. And then along the way in Toronto, I met this extremely talented musician by the name of Marion Grudeff. And Marion was, apart from being an amazing concert pianist, she was music director for an annual review in Canada called Spring Thaw.
I love that.
And it was very successful, and she invited me at first to write, if I would write some songs for it, and they worked out. And she knew more about the theater music than I did, and so at first she was my editor, and then we became collaborators.
Which is interesting, because that opened a whole new chapter of your creativity.
Oh yeah, no, I for example, we talk about the Great American Songbook. Well, Marion knew it all, and that's what she loved to do. She would play Rachmaninoff and Chopin, but what she loved was Gershwin and Jerome Kern, and that's how I learned all about that stuff.
And that led to an extraordinary achievement of the Broadway musical Baker Street.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, we developed a musical based on the life of P.T. Barnum first, and that attracted the attention of a producer by the name of Alexander Cohen, and Alice Cohen loved the score for Barnum and hired us on the spot. It was like a Broadway, like a Hollywood musical.
Very
right
exciting.
There. And but then we ran into problems. He had problems finding anybody to write the book that he liked. And he had the reverse problem with a property option called Baker Street, in which he liked the book, but he wasn't happy with the score. The directors and choreographers had dumped the score, and that's when he brought us in to write that score. So that's.
And that was a musical about Sherlock Holmes.
About Sherlock Holmes, called Baker Street. Yeah.
And it is a piece of history. I know that it's something collectors look at.
And after that, we did another show for Alex Cohen, a remake of Baker Street. I'm sorry, a remake of Hellzapoppin'.
Right.
And which also was supposed to go to Broadway. In fact, we had many rehearsals with George Abbott, who was going to.
Oh, how exciting!
It was exciting, and but the financing fell through, and that didn't happen.
And I know that Louis Armstrong recorded the title tune from that.
That's right. That was such a thrill.
And had a hit with it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know I'm just reading some notes from your bio, and as a songwriter, I know you had a song recorded by Peggy Lee. That's very exciting.
Yeah. Well, strangely enough, there was a friend who was a performer in Baker Street who went to work for Peggy Lee and told us at some time or other that she was preparing a new recording, a new LP, and that she was looking for material, and we had this song that seemed to suit her, and lo and behold, it seems she recorded it in London for an LP. It was never released over here.
Well, you really have had the greats: Louis Armstrong, Peggy, Sammy Davis Jr.
I complained. Sammy did one of the songs from Baker Street, A Married Man. It's on one of his albums. Yeah.
And Mr. Feinstein himself is recorded.
Mr. Feinstein not only recorded a few of our songs, but also we collaborated with him on a song.
Oh yeah.
A song called "Swing Is Back in Style."
Fun.
Which was fun. When I say we, on many of my songs, particularly the serious ones. My collaborator is my wife, Cynthia Thompson.
Oh, yes.
And we work on the lyrics together. I work do the music. Yeah.
Great.
So.
Now, before we get into your career as a performer, which is really how I have come to know you more, you also left the Broadway community and ended up with your day job as in television, which is unusual.
Yes.
So tell us how that happened.
Well, that happened because eventually I couldn't quite make a living just on advances and on Broadway and not having shows actually happen.
Right.
And I had to seek other ways of making a living, and I had friends who I knew from Canada who had gone directly from Toronto out here to Hollywood to work in television, and they suggested I come out here, and they put my name forward for a show here, and I was picked up, as it were, on trial.
Wow.
For a show called The Gold Diggers, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
For the next 20 years, that's what I did, was write scripts for TV shows.
Very exciting. And you did Dean Martin and Carol Burnett.
Dean Martin, Carol Burnett.
I know
the Osmonds. I did a show for Michael Jackson, his summer show, The Jacksons.
And then The Love Boat.
The Love Boat.
So
head of the class.
Yeah, I think that it's relatively unusual to have somebody who's been known as a songwriter to have so much success as a scriptwriter. That I can't think of too many people that have that same experience.
No, there were people who I met when I first came out here who worked on television shows, but they were turning out musical material for them. In fact, that's how I didn't get that work, because they were already doing it.
The Billy Barnes types.
Exactly.
Right. My dear friend Billy Barnes.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you've had quite a successful run as a scriptwriter.
Oh yeah.
And Love Boat.
Love Boat.
Head of the
class. Yeah. And and we did a show for, I guess the last series that we did was a show for Shari Lewis, writing songs for Hush Puppy and Lamb Chop.
So how did it happen that you became a performer at 72?
Well, it came about because I used to perform. The only performance I did was just at parties for friends. And I was at a party. There was another songwriter by the name of Marshall Barr.
Yes, of course.
And he used to have these crazy parties out in Venice, and played. I would do silly songs there, and Michael Feinstein happened to be at many of these parties and heard songs of mine like Oxnard and so on, and started performing them, or he asked me.
I had mentioned to you earlier that the first time I was ever aware of you as a songwriter was I had gone to see Bruce Vilanch's first act that he ever did by himself out front, called Big and Alive. Big and Alive is what and one of the highlights of the evening was he sang your song Oxnard, and we were all like, what is that? It was so cute.
Well, anyway, but after a while, Michael Feinstein said to me, Ray, I'm getting laughs with these songs, but you really should be out there doing this stuff yourself. And so that was the prod I needed I didn't have enough material for an evening, so I started writing material for my act, and then at the Gardenia, what was it, 2002, something like that, I did my first performance in a public place, which was kind of nerve-wracking, but it seemed to work, and that was it. That's when I started at 72.
Most promising newcomer. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like it and feel free to share it. And if you're new to this page, click on my face and subscribe. And also, please make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you want to hear more about in the world of Cabarabia. Broadway, jazz, pop, the new Barbra Streisand record, whatever you want to talk about.